Well, howdy there, y'all. Welcome on back to Recaps with Lou Getty. I'm Sherry DeLongpre. Now it's time to recap Sergio Leone's classic spaghetti western film, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Starring Clint Eastwood as the good, Eli Wallach as the ugly, and Lee Van Cleef as the bad. Take it away, Lou.
Thank you, Cherry. The American frontier. An unforgiving wasteland. After a slow, intense stare-down, 3 bounty hunters force their way into a tavern, shooting wildly. Tuco, also known as the Ugly, is thrown from the tavern's window and quickly flees from the showdown on horseback, leaving behind the corpses of the desperados all shot to death. Meanwhile, a young boy fetched water from a well spots Angel Eyes, or the Bad, riding towards him. Frightened, the boy flees into the family's home, only to be followed by Angel Eyes. The boy's father and Angel Eyes stare each other down in the home's entranceway. Eventually, Angel Eyes makes himself at home, sitting down at the family's table and helping himself to their dinner. The boy's father eventually breaks, revealing that Angel Eyes is a mercenary sent after him by a man named Baker. Baker wants the father killed after he stole a cache of gold. However, Angel Eyes is more interested in Jackson, who's supposedly one of the man's cohorts. Trying to ease the man's comfort, Angel Eyes tells him he's only interested in Jackson, knowing that he's adopted a new identity. The man gives him up, throwing Jackson under the bus by letting it be known his new identity is Bill Carson. In an attempt to save himself and his family, the man offers up 1,000 in gold to Angel Eyes, hoping he'll leave. Needless to say, it doesn't work. Angel Eyes shoots and kills the man and his family before taking the gold for himself, thus revealing why he has earned the reputation as the Bad. Learning of Jackson's new identity, Angel Eyes brings this news to his employer, Baker. But after he's paid, their work relationship is cut short when Angel Eyes murders Baker, taking both his money and his life. Next, we find that Tuco has found himself caught by a group of bounty hunters. We learn that there's a bounty out for him worth $2,000. The hunter's victory is short-lived when they're confronted by Blondie, also known as the Good. He quickly takes the men down, promptly saving Tuco's life. Although his efforts weren't exactly done out of the kindness of his heart, as we see next that he's tied Tuco onto a horse, taking him prisoner, and leading him into town. Blondie dumps Tuco onto the sheriff's door, ready to collect his earnings, leaving Tuco outraged, shouting obscenities. The townspeople gather as Tuco is about to be hanged for his crimes, including theft, arson, and forgery, among several others. But his hide is saved once more by Blondie, who shoots his noose, freeing him. The 2 men share the bounty, and due to Blondie's interference, Tuco is now worth $3,000, revealing the men were in on a scam where Blondie will collect the bounty, then save Tuco's life, thus upping his worth. Back in town, Angel Eyes gets intel on Carson's whereabouts, learning that he's staying with a girl named Maria. While he's there, he witnesses Blondie shooting Tuco down from his noose, freeing him. Although this time, Blondie nearly misses, almost letting Tuco hang. As the 2 men ride off into the desert, Tuco complains about Blondie's marksmanship, causing Blondie to end their deal. To make matters worse, he leaves Tuco stranded in the desert 70 miles from the nearest town. Over at Maria's, she is found by Angel Eyes, who demands to know where Carson is. After violently interrogating the girl, she finally admits that Carson left with a group of Confederate soldiers, making their way to Santa Fe. After struggling to survive the desert heat, Tuco finally makes it back to civilization. The first thing he does is rob and threaten the elderly owner of a gun store. He then recounts his past to a dead chicken, regretting his past friendships. Suddenly, members of his gang come to his aid. Shocked that he's still alive, Tuco informs them that they'll receive $3,000 of his personal money if he can enlist their help to get revenge on Blondie. After threatening an innkeeper and his wife, Tuco and his gang find Blondie's location, ambushing his room. However, Blondie takes out the members of Tuco's gang with ease, foiling Tuco's plan. But he missed one important member of the gang, Tuco. Just as Tuco's about to kill him, a stray cannonball strikes the inn, saving Blondie's life. Back in the desert, Tuco manages to track down Blondie once more, this time on his own. finding his cigars along the trail, finally finding him in a nearby town, getting ready to shoot down yet another criminal's noose. His scheme is cut short when Tuco holds a gun to his head, taking him captive. Under Tuco's command, Blondie is led through the desert, forced to withstand the sun without any water or shade from his hat. Because of this, Blondie soon succumbs to dehydration, growing weaker with each step. Scorched by the sun's heat and left to die, Blondie is no longer a concern for Tuco. Instead, the man's interest turns towards a horse-drawn carriage headed his way. It stops, and upon further investigation, Tuco finds several dead Confederate soldiers in the carriage, one of which is the infamous Bill Carson, except he's not dead, just merely dying. He offers Tuco $200,000 in gold if Tuco fetches the dehydrated man some water. Carson informs Tuco that the gold is buried in a grave over at Sad Hill Cemetery. But before he can tell him which one, Carson loses his ability to speak, as his body is shutting down. Desperate to learn of the gold's whereabouts, Tuco fetches the man water, only to find that Blondie has made his way to the carriage. To make matters worse, Carson has given in to his dehydration and died, but not without sharing the name of the grave in which he hid the money with Blondie, who is now dying himself. Desperate to keep Blondie alive and get the money for himself, Tuco decides to tend to the man and nurse him back to health. Donning a Confederate uniform, Tuco makes his way to a campsite, looking for an infirmary for Blondie. He learns of a nearby monastery that takes in wounded soldiers. Hauling Blondie to the monastery, Tuco anxiously awaits for an update on the man's health, eager to get his hands on the gold. Although Blondie isn't talking, Tuco receives word that he should make a full recovery in due time, much to his pleasure. When Blondie comes to, he finds Tuco at his bed, desperately trying to get Blondie to tell him of the gold's location, pretending that the two men were close friends. However, Blondie doesn't bite, and uses the little strength he has to throw his soup into Tuco's face. Time goes on, and Blondie has made a full recovery. As they're about to leave, Tuco is alerted that Father Ramirez has returned to the monastery, or as Tuco knows him as his brother Pablo. He greets his brother with an excited smile, one that is not returned by Pablo. We learn that his brother is disappointed in Tuco and his antics, judgingly eyeing his brother's fake Confederate uniform. Tuco learns from Pablo that their father has recently passed away, asking for Tuco by his side. Devastated, Tuco is interrogated by his brother, who wants to know what good he has done with his life, knowing the answer is obviously nothing. The meeting escalates into a physical altercation, leaving Tuco to assault his own brother. Upset, Tuco leaves the monastery with Blondie, ready to set out for their riches. On their way, the duo run into a group of soldiers. Thinking that they're Confederate soldiers, Tuco shouts encouragement for the South and berating the Yanks. He thinks that God is on their side, but Blondie mutters that God also hates idiots, because he notices that the advancing cavalry were only covered in dust that was kicked up while riding on horseback through the desert, giving off the illusion that they were wearing the gray uniforms of the Confederates. But in actual fact, when you brush the dust off, the men were proudly wearing the blue fatigues of the Union Army. Blondie and Tuco are subsequently taken into their custody and held as prisoners of war. While at the prison camp, we learn that Angel Eyes has infiltrated under the disguise of a Union soldier. He takes interest in Tuco when he poses as Bill Carson, the man Angel Eyes is hunting for. Angel Eyes, under disguise, is lectured by the dying captain, being told that he needs to treat the prisoners of war with more humanity. The beatings and even murder of the prisoners are ordered to cease. Taking control of the camp, Angel Eyes demands that Carson, who is really Tuco, be brought to him at once. Tuco joins Angel Eyes for dinner. Immediately sensing that something is wrong, Angel Eyes begins to question Tuco, revealing that he knows the man to be a phony. Their friendly dinner comes to a halt when Angel Eyes begins to torture Tuco in an attempt to get the name of the cemetery they're going to. Tuco's cries drowned out by the soldiers singing outside. As the torture continues, Tuco, badly beaten, still refuses to speak, frustrating Angel Eyes even further. Eventually, on the brink of death and having his eyes gouged out, Tuco gives in. He tells Angel Eyes that the money is buried in a grave located in Sad Hill Cemetery. When Angel Eyes asks which grave, Tuco only says Blondie knows the whereabouts of the money. With this newfound information, Angel Eyes enlists the help of Blondie, telling the man the two of them will find the cash themselves. Skeptical, Blondie asks why he wasn't tortured, to which Angel Eyes responds that he knows Blondie is smart enough not to talk while being tortured. He also lets him know Tuco is still alive in the good hands of the Confederate soldiers. Held captive by Angel Eyes' cohorts, Tuco is loaded onto a train, taking them to a nearby city. He attempts to escape by pretending he needs to use the restroom. As the Confederate soldier waits for him to go, Tuco pushes him out of the train, killing him and fleeing. Tuco arrives in an abandoned town, overrun by soldiers. He takes this time to take a bubble bath, only to be confronted by an enemy of his, which of course he promptly takes down, saying, "When you have to shoot, shoot, don't talk." Unbeknownst to Tuco, Blondie has separated from Angel Eyes and found him, informing Tuco that Angel Eyes has 5 henchmen with him, all in pursuit for the gold. Angel Eyes orders his men to collect Blondie, but needs him alive to get the grave's location. Angel Eyes' men meet their ends when they confront Tuco and Blondie, who take them down, even with explosions threatening their lives. They're not in the clear yet when they realize Angel Eyes has gotten away, leaving them behind a note that says, "See you soon, idiots," which Tuco struggles to read. As the men flee the city, they're almost immediately stopped by Union soldiers who take them to their captain. They convince the captain to let them enlist in their army, claiming they hail from Illinois. They learn the soldiers are preparing for a battle on a bridge, one that is almost guaranteed to end in bloodshed. The drunken captain states the importance of keeping the bridge intact, lamenting that if he could, he'd blow it up himself. Tuco and Blondie encourage him as a battle breaks out. Tuco and Blondie watch on as the two sides duke it out, but Tuco points out that the cemetery is beyond the bridge. While the soldiers are fighting, they can't cross and reach their destination. Blondie returns to the idea of blowing up the bridge, as it may be their only chance to get the gold. The pair steal a makeshift gurney from a soldier and begin to pile it with explosives. They begin to strap the bombs onto the bridge when Tuco brings up the fact they may not make it out alive. Blondie reminds them that without the knowledge of which grave the gold is buried in, Tuco receives nothing. Thus, he must keep Blondie alive, even during a hazardous stunt like this. Coming to terms with this, Tuco decides the two should share their secrets. He shares the name of the cemetery, Sad Hill, with Blondie, demanding that he share the name of the grave. He does, telling Tuco the name is Arch Stanton. The men light the dynamite and run off, taking cover as the bridge explodes, causing the battle to come to an end and both armies to retreat. Hurt in battle, the dying captain watches on as the bridge collapses, one final victory before he takes his last breath. The next morning, looking out on the chaos the battle has left behind, Tuco and Blondie set out for Sad Hill. They reach an abandoned building where they find a dying soldier, Blondie letting him take one last drag of his cigar before he perishes. Tuco, on the other hand, is up to his tricks. He steals a horse and leaves Blondie, determined to take the money all for himself. Blondie has none of this and lights a cannon, shooting it directly at Tuco and his horse. He lives, but is now without a ride. As he dodges the explosion, Tuco looks up to find himself at Sad Hill Cemetery. Ecstatic, Tuco runs around the cemetery, searching for Arch Stanton's grave. With great luck, he finds it and starts digging. His luck doesn't last long as he looks up and finds Blondie standing over him, holding him at gunpoint. Angel Eyes surprises both men when he arrives, now taking Blondie hostage, demanding that he dig. Blondie refuses, stating that without him, there'd be no gold. Angel Eyes questions him and Blondie reveals that Arch Stanton's grave is empty. He lied about the gold's location. The men reach a standstill. Blondie decides to write the name on the bottom of a stone he's found and challenges the men to a 3-way duel. The good, the bad, and the ugly face off in a fight to the death. The 3 men stare each other down, slowly reaching for their guns for what seems like an eternity. Finally, Blondie shoots, mortally wounding Angel Eyes, finishing him off with a second blow, sending his body into an open grave. Tuco tries to fight, but discovers his gun isn't loaded. He's plumb out of luck. Blondie admits that it was him who unloaded Tuco's gun, revealing he did it the night before. He leads Tuco over to an unmarked grave, revealing that the grave holding the money had no name on it. He supervises Tuco as he digs up the treasure, and although he does, he gets to keep none of it. Blondie forces Tuco into a noose at gunpoint, to which the man reluctantly does. Tuco is left stranded, balancing on a grave topper. One misstep and he'd surely die. Just to further taunt him, Blondie leaves a few bags of gold at his feet, knowing the man can't reach them without executing himself. Blondie rides off into the sunset, leaving Tuco to perish. Tuco calls out for him, nearly losing his balance and falling victim to the noose. Blondie reappears for one last moment, just to shoot Tuco free from his noose. The film ends with the good winning and the ugly left to fend for himself in the deadly vastness that is the American West. So you got this far, tell me, if you have a favorite Western, leave it in the comments below. And Cherry, you got anything else to say?
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more recaps with Lou, Aaron, Getty.